Welcome to Conversations in Compounding Care, where we explore the transformative power of personalized and functional medicine. My name is Bass Girgis. I'm the co-founder of Akina Pharmacy, and I'm thrilled to be hosting you guys today. This series of conversations spotlights providers, clinical specialists, partners, and subject matter experts to explore the ever-changing world of personalized healthcare. Today, we're joined by Shannon Seeberan, co-founder of Cloud MedSpas, a software platform transforming how healthcare and beauty space owners can generate revenue. Since 2020, Shannon has scaled her company from 1 to 40 locations across 16 different markets, helping clients unlock new income streams in the booming aesthetics industry. We're excited to hear her take on innovation, entrepreneurship, and disrupting the status quo. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor. Let's get started. And if you can just tell us a little bit more about your company and why and how you started Cloud MedSpas.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Cloud MedSpas launched, I would say about 3 years ago, but our flagship location, which was the genesis of our software platform, really is what is behind what Cloud MedSpas is today. And that's been around for 6 years, where we've been implementing the Cloud MedSpa model for about 6 years, providing solutions to space owners in the healthcare and med spa and wellness space. So, in short, Cloud Med Spas is like an Airbnb for medical practice, healthcare, med spa owners, space owners, or leasers. We provide a solution for incremental space, exam rooms, practices that have multiple locations or too large of a footprint that they don't feel like they're efficiently using their rooms, their space as much as they should be, which is clearly their biggest asset. So we provide a solution, a software platform that helps them rent those spaces and leverage revenue for the utilization of their space. The primary renter that we help our clients target is the medical aesthetic practitioner injector, which is a very quickly growing marketplace. Obviously, medical aesthetics is a very quickly growing space as well, and the practitioners and the people working in the space are definitely growing in the direction of entrepreneurship, wanting to earn full ability and profit options for the procedures that they perform on their patients. Cloud Med Spas gives them the opportunity to access space and product without taking on the risk and the capital overhead of renting or leasing a space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's definitely the first model that I was introduced to that's in the healthcare industry that resembles an Airbnb or like a short-term rental model. So curious to know if you can tell us a little bit about how you identified this as an opportunity in the first place, right? And kind of what took you down that path? Where did it start? How confident were you that there's like a demand out there for this where you actually kind of move forward with building out the technology to solve this, let's say, problem or present an opportunity to some space owners?
Yeah. Well, the first obviously impetus of my co-founder Iggy Fanlor, founder of Cloud Med Spas, when he came up with this solution, he saw the correlation, the relevance of how the medical aesthetic space, which is again, medical aesthetics are non-invasive aesthetic procedures, things like neurotoxins, fillers, procedures that aesthetic practitioners do, facials, things like that, IV hydration, all of that. He saw how similar it was to the hair care industry. The hair care industry has been renting chairs in salons for years because salon owners understood very early on that the relationship between the client and the practitioner, the beautician in that case, is where the loyalty resides. And so renting chairs to multiple hairstylists was much more efficient for hair salons to do and empower independent practitioners as opposed to hold them as employees and manage their patient and client flow. The medical aesthetic industry is very similar. One of the biggest issues in the med spa space is HR issues, the retention of employees. And for practice owners, med spa plastic surgeons, anyone in the medical aesthetic space to retain employees is very difficult. There is a revolving door of employees, and when they leave, the patients tend to follow them and go with them. So we really saw the need to empower practitioners with the opportunity to run their own business and control their own patient flow. So, when we initially launched our first location to support practitioners, think of it like a shared space, a WeWork. We had multiple rooms and multiple users of the space. It wasn't a one room to one practitioner ratio. It was 50 practitioners using 6 different rooms. So, practitioners, the majority of practitioners in the medical aesthetic space tend to practice on average 5 to 10 hours a month. And it's if they're working independently, and it's a very lucrative usage of their time. They're typically making anywhere between $400 and $600 net an hour. So the majority of aesthetic injectors who were working in this space were doing it part-time, as a side hustle, as a side gig, and generating a lot of cash income for themselves, but they didn't need a full-time space or a full-time lease or mortgage. Our locations and the opportunity to rent by the hour, utilize space, and get access to this prescription injectable product they need to perform their procedures is what Cloud MedSpas provided for independent practitioners to be able to go out and work on their own. And it also provided a solution for med spa owners, space owners to pivot and remove themselves from the heavy overhead and the high overhead of having multiple employee salaries, marketing costs to keep patients and clients flowing in to keep their employees busy. Um, and now they could be renting their space to 30 different renters as opposed to carrying 3 different salaries and the responsibility and overhead of managing people, retaining those employees, keeping them busy, keeping patients and clients coming through the door, which was one of the biggest pain points of owning a medical aesthetic practice. So we're empowering the practitioner who holds the loyalty of the client. We're empowering the business owner, the practice owner, the location owner who has the space to leverage, and everybody wins in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. So would it be fair to say that, I mean, this sounds really appealing, I imagine, for some people, where essentially would it be fair to say, would you rather be an employer and have to manage employees and the overhead and, let's say, the challenges that just come with being an employer? Or would you rather be a landlord and just rent out this? Is it fair to say that it's pretty good comparison there between a landlord and just an employer?
I think so. Employers were extremely frustrated with the retention of employees, including non-competes and other sort of threatening standards in order to retain their employees, which is not a healthy way of practicing and running a business. That is exhausting. And so you could have multiple users of your space, reduce your overhead costs by removing salary and marketing fees, and also reducing the quantity of product inventory that you're carrying by streamlining and tapping into Cloud MedSpas, which is basically automating the process of scheduling the use of your space, your inventory management, and just streamlining that process by thinking of it as, a shared opportunity. Now you're joining the cloud of multiple locations and users who are all sharing and benefiting from the same resources. So it's a smarter way for everyone to go about implementing in their own business and entrepreneurship. Obviously, we've all learned post pandemic, reducing overhead is key. A lot of practitioners who felt like they needed a brick and mortar associated with their practice dialed back, went into shared space with other practitioners. Everyone's thinking about how to reduce that overhead. And obviously, the utilization space is become much more efficient by practitioners. So we are obviously supporting that movement for space owners who have that overhead by encouraging other practitioners to be in their space, use their space. There's a lot of symmetry with patient and client referral with a lot of space owners and aesthetic practitioners. So a lot of opportunity for patient growth that is organic. And then obviously you're empowering a movement of practitioners in a very lucrative space who have the capability to run their own business, but they may not potentially have the capital or the infrastructure needed to do so. So getting access to space, professional, turnkey, medically appropriate space in order to treat their clients on an as needed basis is really filling a huge need for entrepreneurs.
So I imagine that there's providers that are out there listening to this, and I'm sure it has gauged interest, right? Number one, it's probably the first time a lot of people have heard about this technology that can facilitate me renting out a space that's sort of just sitting there. So, I think some of the providers out there would be curious to know, how does it actually work? So from a host model, a landlord model, can you walk us through what it looks like? I'm going to use terminology that may or may not be applicable here, but let's say, if it's similar to an Airbnb model, how do I list the space, and what can I do through the platform as a host, and just kind of walk us through onboarding and what that looks like. And you did mention one other thing, that
Sure.
if you touch on inventory, right? If you could speak a little bit about what inventory are we talking about and how that fits into this whole thing.
Sure. So a lot of clients I speak with or potential clients for Cloud MedSpa software have already considered renting out their space, or they're already doing so. They might have one room that they're not utilizing a few days a week, and they may have another practitioner of a different specialty using that space. But what they don't understand is a 1-to-1 ratio is really not utilizing that space efficiently. And the opportunity to rent one room or four rooms via our app and manage that room utilization hourly is a much more efficient utilization of the space. So our app manages that scheduling process for them. So they are not having to communicate with practitioner A, B, C, D when they're in the space, when their schedule's changing, how it's changing. It automates the payment processing for utilization of space. And most importantly, for space owners or leasers, it also takes care of the liability of the users of your space. So you're not absorbing a liability from the other practitioners who are in your space. You stay very cleanly as a landlord. So in the onboarding and enrollment process via the app, when a practitioner would like to access and use a space, it takes care of all of those legal requirements for how that practitioner treats their patients. Obviously, the space owner is not privy to who the patients are or the transactions that occur in that room. So that allows that space owner to be strictly held as a landlord in this scenario. So that process really streamlines the opportunity for you to leverage multiple users in a very small amount of space, whether it's one room a couple days a week. All of our clients can control and manage the availability and utilization of their space the same way you control if you posted your apartment on Airbnb. You decide when it would be available, and Airbnb sort of oversees the insurance side, the process of the renter using your space. That it's not dissimilar from that. As far as inventory, one of the main drivers to our locations by aesthetic practitioners is access to aesthetic injectable, prescription aesthetic injectable product. These are fillers and neurotoxins that are used in the procedures for their patients. The cost of these products can be quite high when an individual practitioner is opening an account with a specific vendor. They have to prove they are correlated with a commercial business, medically appropriate location. And so that is fulfilled by our space owners. And they are getting access to product at close to wholesale cost. They're only buying what they need for the procedures they're performing. That is the big margin of their profit making ability. So for practitioners who are performing these procedures to be able to access the space and access the product they need to perform the inventory, it provides them with the highest margins on space utilization and treating their patients. When I speak of inventory, I'm also referring to the med spas, the practice owners who are running aesthetic practices are typically carrying, as buyers of this product, they're carrying large quantities of inventory in order to achieve low cost on product. So purchasing $40,000, $50,000 of product at a time in order to achieve low individual product costs. So what a lot of business owners in the medical aesthetic space don't look into is how much they have to pay forward in order to achieve and get into the green and be in a profit when they're buying in on so much product and investing so many, obviously, of their overhead in buying product. They're waiting for procedures to move so they can be reimbursed on all of their investments, whether it's devices or product inventory. And so being able to tap into the Cloud MedSpa's buying opportunity for an injectable product, they're only buying what is moving at their location that week and that time. So they're not carrying that overhead cost for the users of their space. So it's a much more transparent, low overhead cost for running an aesthetic business.
Yeah. So there's multiple advantages here. I'm not sure if I understood this part correctly. Is the supplying of the product to the renter of the room, is that another revenue stream for the landlord as well?
It can be. Obviously, the renter of the space is transacting with the location through the app. The same way you go onto the Airbnb app, you source the city you want to rent in and which apartment you want to use. In the process, the renter is also wanting to access the product they're going to need when they're in the space. So they're reserving the room for the hour, they're purchasing the product they need. That product actually has to physically be on site at that location for that transaction to occur. So we do ask our space owners to carry minimal quantities of product so that when the renters are in need of that product, it's in inventory and available. So that might be one or two vials of neurotoxin, and they order as frequently as they need to. In order for those transactions to take place, the inventory has to be on location.
And it sounds like the space owner that is maintaining this inventory is accessing it at wholesale costs without the requirement of a MOQ, like a minimum order quantity. Is that right?
Correct. They're buying
Yeah.
on an as-needed basis. They don't have to buy, tens of thousands of dollars of product at a time. They're just buying what is being used by the renters in their space. And so they are the initial purchaser and can, in theory, charge a handling fee on that product before the practitioner or renter in that space is purchasing the product. So there's an opportunity for small margin, anywhere
Yeah.
around 5%, for them to earn on being the handler and the ship to location for that product. The majority of revenue in this model is earned by the renting and utilization of the space. So if you have one room or two rooms, you could potentially have 10 or 20 renters of your space by having a very small amount of availability. And when you think of a practitioner being in your space 5 hours a month, typically an hourly rental under this model runs around $99 an hour. It's up to the space owner to determine what their hourly rental cost is. And so if you have someone using your space 5 hours a month, you're generating about $500 in rental revenue per month for yourself. Think of having 10 or 20 different users of your space generating that sort of revenue. And so it adds up. It helps cover, it might help cover an employee's salary. It might help cover your rent or lease costs. It's a smarter way to leverage your largest asset, which is your space.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So, what are some main questions? Like, let's say, again, kind of focusing on the space owner.
Yeah,
One question I think I might have as a space owner, maybe a myth that should be debunked is, okay, am I renting out my space to a competitor? Right? They're providing
that's
the
a great
same service,
question.
it's their own business. Why would I go rent out a space to a competitor?
Yeah, and I'll just touch on the fact of the renter acquisition. We are providing the platform, the resource with which our clients can rent their space, but the acquisition of the renters really resides in the hands of the space owner or the leaser. We support them with practices in which they can build awareness and draw an interest for the rental utilization of their space, but finding sourcing and closing those renters to use their space and showing their space is really resides on the renter themselves. But we support them with practices to do that efficiently. That's a great question. Is someone else using my space my competitor? Everyone is so quickly to be on the defense and think, someone's going to go after my clients and take my clients. They have to understand that the renters and users of this space are marketing themselves as their own independent practice. They're using the space only to treat their patients. So they have their own LLC, they have their own business name. They're coming to 101 Main Street just to treat their patients, and they're sourcing their own patients. So they're not hanging out there all day. And this is not a business model where people are walking in off the street. The practitioners come for the hour they're using the space to treat their patients who have booked time with them. And so you have your own clients already in place, and they have their own clients already in place. The transactions are taken care of by each practitioner in the room. And so when you think of, if you are a confident, smart business owner that has great relationships with your clients, this is not a competitive leveraging opportunity. You are, in a way, now you're working amongst peers. What we understand at a very successful locations is that the community of practitioners and diverse array of practitioners at a location is actually better for everyone's business. Practitioners at our locations tend to build support amongst each other, and potentially if they're performing different procedures can be on a referral basis with another practitioner. They can be on a referral basis with that location owner who might be in the specialty that has nothing to do with medical aesthetics. They could be an aesthetic dentist who offers veneers, whitening, teeth straightening. And so, which is the same patient as the patient who's getting injections to reduce fine lines or plump up her face or his face. So there's a lot of organic referral opportunities when the specialties can differentiate. And there really isn't competitiveness amongst practitioners working in the same space. We have close to 80 members, renters in a space in Boston who are all efficiently and successfully running their own practices using the same space, treating their own patients.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. I've sort of neglected the renter in most of my questions here, right? Is it fair to refer
Yeah.
to the practitioner that's looking for a space as the renter in this case,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
what would you say the main question a renter will ask a space owner, or let's say a renter is a potential renter, maybe it's like more inclined to go sign a lease and have their own space, right? For
Mhm.
let's say
Mhm.
the idea of it or the look of it. What would you tell the potential renter is? What main questions do they have? Do they have? What main challenges do they have? And what would we want to clear up for potential renters so that they may consider this as a viable option for their business?
Yeah, I would just say consider the margins and the overhead and the risk that you're carrying if you have your own space. Understand how frequently you will be in your space. You rarely see a full-time injector who's working 40 hours a week. They tend
Yeah.
to be working 5, 10 hours a week because they're generating extremely high profit margins in a short amount of time. So again, for those practitioners who want their own space, it's like, well, that's great. And maybe you could leverage the Cloud MedSpa platform even to rent out your space when you're not using it, right? So it's just a smarter way to take on that overhead. The building of community, most practitioners want to work amongst other practitioners. The constant training and education required to excel in this industry is huge. So being able to collaborate, work amongst other practitioners, gain access to the reps who, you can build relationships with at all of our locations is important to thrive in this space. So for those practitioners, and then there's a lot of practitioners who come to Cloud Med Spa locations who are looking to break into medical aesthetics, who have not found the opportunity to be hired or trained in a way where they can then launch their opportunity. There are little to no hiring opportunities for injection and medical aesthetic practitioners who don't have experience already. And so Cloud Med Spa's locations can support them with the training and education they need and help them get their careers off the ground without sitting around and waiting for someone to hire you. So you can start taking advantage of performing these procedures and using the skill that you learned.
Yeah. So you could just, bypass all of the setup, let's say, that it requires for your traditional startup, right? That could take anywhere from 6 months, 9 months, a
Yeah.
year, finding the space, setting up the space, the POS system, the this, the that. So you're sort of just bypassing all of that and kickstarting your business right away, which I think a lot of people would
Yeah.
find highly advantageous, right? It's sort of let's just get that client base built and started. and kind
Yeah,
of go from
you're
there.
just reducing that risk and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and all those barriers to entry of the traditional mindset of launching your business is going to the bank, taking out a loan. You don't have to do any of that with Cloud Med Spas. Now you have access to space, you have access to community of other practitioners you can learn from and resources that can support you all of your business questions and your procedural questions as you
Yeah.
grow and develop this aspect of your career.
Okay. Now let's say I'm a space owner, right? And I'm starting to book my space. How can I get the word out there more? Is there a way that your current space owners are, let's say, promoting their space and getting it in front of medical providers that would be very interested in renting the space?
Yes, when our clients come on board, we take them through a very successful process that has worked for us very well. We've tried many different marketing opportunities. We have found one that works very efficiently when a client comes to market to build awareness and generate interest from prospects in the marketplace so that they start seeing the traffic and the inquiries from prospective renters in their specific market. So we do help launch our clients with that opportunity, but it is a collaboration with product reps in the marketplace who help build awareness and generate prospective renters for these locations and a whole diverse array of opportunities. So we have a team who supports our clients with onboarding and jump starting the opportunity to generate renters in their space.
Okay, awesome. Um, so Shannon, our time is winding down here now. If people are listening to this and they want to learn more, right? There's providers out there that may be thinking to themselves right now, I'm a really good fit for this. This is a problem that I didn't even know I had, right? Or that, there was anything I could do about this extra space that I haven't. Now there's this new solution. How do I go find out more? Like, do you do demos and stuff? Where do I go to find out more information and dig into this a little more?
Website is a great resource to learn more and to hear testimonials from our clients who are space owners and our clients and the practitioners who are using the space. So, there's testimonials, there's podcasts with clients and renters of spaces. That's a great place to start. And to set up a call with me is another great place, just purely informational to learn how this applies specifically to your space. Every client is different. Every client has a different range of space, at their access to space. They want to understand their market and how this works. We're happy to set up a call and review that with prospective clients. So, the
Yeah.
best way is to reach out to me, Shannon at cloudmedspas.com. Go to the website. My information is there as well, Cloud MedSpas, it's plural.com. And let's have a conversation. And we are very transparent with the financial opportunity, the growth opportunity. Our software is evolving all the time to meet the needs of the renter, the users of your space. We're excited about launching an AI enabled EMR platform in Q4 of this year. So we're constantly adding value to the platform so that the users of your space are thriving, doing well. You have the retention and the growth opportunity to get more and more renters into your space.
Yeah. Amazing. That's amazing stuff. I lied. I do have one more question for you before we wrap up. What do you love the most about what you do? What keeps you going every single day? Why do you show up and do what you do every single day?
It's the heartfelt sort of testimonials from independent practitioners, which a lot of them tend to be nurses who are struggling with a work life balance. They're struggling to do the career that they love, which is care for others. Um, meet the financial needs of day to day life that are hard. And nurses, tend to be overworked and undercompensated from an emotional standpoint, from a mental standpoint, and a physical standpoint, as well as financial. And so, really bringing solutions to nurses in the space who are looking for more of a work life balance so they can stay in a career in nursing that they love, but also add the skill set that comes so naturally to them in the aesthetic space. So, really being able to empower nurses, empower a lot of women in this space, in this marketplace, to find that they're capable of being entrepreneurs and they're capable of being successful and running their own business. That to me is really fulfilling.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So all the providers out there, you heard it here first, I think. Cloud MedSpas, bringing these solutions that it's truly original in our industry, right? Especially in an industry that tends to be very antiquated and doesn't adopt technology as quickly as other industries do. So I thought it was really cool what you're doing and the solution that you're bringing to providers as either a renter or a space owner. And I think a lot of people listening to this are going to be very curious to know more. And explore this further. And I wanted to say thank you so much for your time today. It was really a pleasure speaking with you and learning from you today.
And I appreciate it, and I hope, your viewers, if they're interested, they don't hesitate to reach out and learn more and see if this could be a fit for them.
We'll definitely be sharing the information, the contact information to get in touch with you in our captions here so that people have easy access to get to you. Okay. It
Great. Thank you.
was a pleasure, Shannon. Take care now. Bye.
Thank you.